We've got to look at what's... We are here with you through the mid-morning hours to get you ready for all the big events in your life.
That's right. The Weather Channel has you covered from coast to coast. Now, this is the time of year when our closets are a challenge. Mine pretty much all times of year, but definitely this time of year because we're going from shorts to sweaters, back to shorts, sometimes in one day, sometimes in the matter of days. That's what we're dealing with.
Yes. So we definitely put on the winter-ish gear today. We're into the sweaters. It's National Mulligan Day, though, and a mulligan
is like Atlanta. Hence the sweater. Meanwhile, we're looking at the other chunk of the country is dealing with the heat. So whether you are dealing with the chill or the heat, it's feeling a little bit out of sorts for October. So what is bringing us that chill? It's this dip in the jet stream. When you have a dip like that, it allows that cold air to escape farther southward. And that's what we're dealing with across the east, the southeast coast, along the Gulf Coast as well. You can see here highs 5 to 10 degrees below average. And not just the temperatures, the dew points are low as well. So it's feeling very crisp out there. Take a look at the temperatures around the Great Lakes region. Now, this is actually pretty close to average for places like Detroit and Chicago when you're in the upper 40s, the mid 40s in Chicago. Cincinnati, lower 50s there. That's not too far from average, just a few degrees below. Today in Detroit, we're headed for the mid-50s. You guys should be in the lower 60s, so this is cooler than you should be, but it's not like crazy cold compared to where you should be for mid-October. Meanwhile, though, as we look south, that's where you're really feeling the big difference. The highs today in places like Nashville and Atlanta, nearly 10 degrees below average. We're going to be in the mid-60s, should be in the mid-70s. As you look down toward Tallahassee, it's closer to like around 10 degrees below average, where you're only getting into the lower 70s today. The temperatures right now, upper 40s in Jackson, upper 30s in Oklahoma City. Meanwhile, Raleigh, you're coming in the mid-50s. Tomorrow morning, though, some of us are going to be chilly once again, down in the mid-40s. Nashville and Atlanta, same thing. The 40s all the way down into the panhandle of Florida. Tallahassee, we're talking about upper 40s for you. So that is, again, around 10 degrees below average. New Orleans, mid-50s for you guys. So a little bit of a crisp feeling for your October there in the Big Easy. Pittsburgh, what's going to happen for you is you're below average today. You're in the mid-50s, but as we head into Wednesday and Thursday, you have a pattern change. We'll have a warm front lifting north through Pennsylvania as we head through Thursday, and then you'll notice those temperatures take a dip again. So that front moves through Thursday into Friday, and then those temperatures fall back down to below average, and you have some rain hanging around as well. So I'd say enjoy Thursday there in Pittsburgh if you want the slightly warmer temperatures. Atlanta, nothing to complain about. You can't complain when it's 72 and sunny. 66 and sunny. Well, Jen, I think I probably could. When
we were both complaining this morning that it was too cold. So.
That it's too cold, but 72 and sunny.
And I'll show you just how cold it's going to be. Here's a look at where we are in terms of temperature change. We've dropped about 9 degrees in Miami compared to yesterday, and yesterday morning was cool. So yeah, it's significant down there. We've dropped to 6 and 3 degrees in Jacksonville, 6 degrees in West Palm Beach, and right, all things considered, it was chilly yesterday morning, so it's even cooler this morning. Right now, temperatures sitting at 66 in Miami, 64 in West Palm Beach. All of these are a degree or two warmer than we were at where we maxed out this morning at our coldest temperature. So coldest since March for most of us. Coldest since about mid-March, actually, for most of us. The key thing here is that the air has dried out and the dew points have dropped off, and that's what allows it to really cool down. If you have no wind, the air can cool down almost to the dew point or to the dew point. And so that's what has happened for at least northern Florida. Tallahassee dew point running in the 40s, but we've got 40s dew points all the way in Miami. You step outside, you're like, wait, what's this air? It's so dry. I'm thirsty. My lips are chapped, right? That's the kind of air we're dealing with. The sun was going to be out, though, and when the air is drier like that, you warm up, and so we'll have a pretty nice afternoon. Comfortable. How about upper 70s in Miami? We will take it. We were just under a heat advisory over the weekend, so big difference out there. Cooling down again tonight, probably not as far, maybe close to it, but not any farther than we've been, and then warming back up a little bit more to the 80s here across the Sunshine State with sunshine. I mean, it looks really good. Here's a look at Tallahassee. We've got temperatures topping out near average. Average is in the low 80s. We'll get close to it into Thursday and Friday. Quick chance of storms come in, and then a really nice stretch of weather coming on in. Well, the first flakes of the season.
We're not thinking about jackets or coats or sweaters at all where we have above average temperatures. We're thinking about heat. We're sweating it out in places like Denver, where your average highs in the mid-60s this time of year. And instead today, we're in the lower 80s in the mile-high city. You've got some sunshine too, so it's not like it's 80s and it's cloudy. You've got sunshine. You've got a bit of a breeze though, so that could help you stay a little bit cooler. A bit of a dip on Wednesday, but still above average. And then those temperatures soar right back into the 80s for Denver. You're not alone though. If you're ready for it to cool off and you're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? You are with millions of others that are dealing with above average temperatures by Thursday. The whole western half of the country above average, more than 117 million above average, and then 78 million by Saturday. So those highs 5 to 15 degrees above average, translating into big heat. So here's what's going on. We have our first high pressure in place. That's going to begin to kind of dive southeastward, but a stronger high pressure takes the place of that, and that is going to allow us to continue to warm with record temperatures possible. All these little red dots, those are records that we could see as we head through this week. For a place like Phoenix, now I know when you think of Phoenix, you think, well, it's hot anyways, right? Phoenix should be in the upper 80s this time of year. So 104 is just a little too much. Vegas should be in the upper 80s as well. So you're seeing those temperatures a bit above average in some places and well above average in other places. For Thursday, this is where we're looking at that possibility for records. Bakersfield, your forecast 96, your old record also 96, set back in 1973. So Jen, we are not just looking at slightly above average, we're looking at record-breaking heat as we head through this week.
The thing is, we also have some storminess to deal with, and yesterday it was all in the Pacific Northwest. Had a couple tornado warnings I saw up there in it was in Oregon, northern Oregon. Now today that system is on the move, and we're going to be watching for some moisture, some rain, some mountain snow, and also a lot of wind. The wind is probably the biggest story as the system sweeps in across Montana and Wyoming. But our weather producer just pointed this out to me here. Look at this. Got a little moisture forming on those mountains right there. So yeah, it makes a difference. We have the upslope, and the air can help, the rising air can help squeeze out the moisture in the atmosphere. Now we're going to be watching for I think not a lot of precip yet. It's going to take a minute to get all of the moisture in place. But we've got some shower activity in the radar starting to show up across western Montana. Right now, you're seeing some clear skies in places like Casper. The wind is going to pick up in all of these areas today, regardless of what precip we get, if any. The wind is going to be a factor across Glasgow and Havre and Great Falls. We've got high wind warning up there. High wind watches down here as well towards places like Cheyenne. And get ready, that wind is going to be on the increase over towards western South Dakota and the Black Hills, including around Rapid City. Now, as we watch that system track east, it is going to be picking up some moisture and then bring us some rainfall chances into the Midwest. And I say some because these kind of systems, they're kind of like a clipper, really, as it moves across, doesn't have a ton of access to moisture. So we'll see some rain. We're not going to see the heaviest of rain. Probably what you got last weekend was more than what you're going to be getting out of this. But at least we'll get some rain chances. This is an area that really needs it. Coming in across Wisconsin, lower Michigan, rain coming in for you Wednesday into Thursday. Then we'll track it east here getting into Friday and Saturday. And maybe a little lobe of energy here coming in around that upper level low gives us another chance of rain into your Saturday as well. We'll keep that going into parts of the Northeast. Yes, yet again. So the amounts, though, as I mentioned, aren't going to be huge. We've got likely less than an inch most everywhere. Lighter amounts, just not a ton of rain coming in. And look, we are in a drought, and so we could use more than this here, Felicia.
Yeah, some beneficial rain. I think that pretty much everyone in the Northeast might be feeling the same way. It's like, listen, I sit at work Monday through Friday, be cloudy, be rainy, all you want. Stop ruining my weekend. But we just can't seem to get out of this rainy pattern. You can see it here. Rainy weekends in New York, 6 of the 7, Providence, 5 of the last 7. So it's like all of those fall plans that we all look forward to. You know, when the temperatures start to cool, the leaves start to change, the pumpkin patches, the apple picking. The rain has been plaguing you if you've been trying to do it through the weekend. Not only does it ruin our plans, but it makes the ground saturated. So you can see where we have that possibility for flash flooding as we head through the weekend as well. Across portions of New England where the ground has been saturated. Here's our system that Jen was just talking about. Now watch what happens though. We've got this dip in the jet stream, and this is going to focus a lot of this energy here with this disturbance that's going to be moving through that dip. Now we've got an area of enhanced lift. What does that even mean to you? That means we are going to have the possibility for this system really getting its act together, getting this low pressure to develop off the coast, and the models are picking up on this as it moves off the east coast and lifts northeastward. Still kind of uncertain where it's going to end up. Still kind of uncertain exactly how strong it will be. But what we do know is you're going to get this circulation of wind and rain once again across the Northeast. Watch how this fills in as we're heading into your Friday morning. You can see those kind of two areas of rain coming together by Friday night. Heading into your weekend, still very rainy. Saturday morning, the rain is hanging around into Sunday as well for portions of New England. So it's just going to be a really rainy time. And Jen, you know, when we're talking about another rainy weekend, you just at one point it's like, I guess I'm going to have to take a day off work. I guess maybe to get some like activity in or something done outside, decorate for Halloween, anything.
I know it's almost laughable. Like, how can it possibly rain again on another weekend?
And then with these winds that are going to come along with this system, it's like all of those decorations better be attached and firmly attached.
Your ghosts a little bit be flying away. Well, the rain that we'll see this week is just one of the things that can make
precipitation off the
I would agree. You would think snow and ice would be the worst, but I don't often drive in snow or ice, so rain ends up being, you know, most stressful.
I would say all the above.
Yeah. Change. Cities could see wild temperature swings from one day to the next.
From morning to afternoon, too, basically. Here's a closer look at the tale of 2 Octobers and what exactly causes it.
That's the thing about October, is it has so much potential.
It really does. And you don't know which way the potential is going to go.
Exactly.
Is it, or is it going to go every way? Is it you're going to have ice in the central states, tropics? It's just so much to keep an eye on. And we still are watching things in the tropics.
Yes, of course. There's actually a little peak mid-October, usually in the tropics. Now, 2 things in the Eastern Pacific. Invest 94L, we've been keeping an eye on since this came off the coast of Africa here in the Atlantic. It now has an 80% chance of developing.
Now, I know as you're looking at this, you might be like, what is going on here? It looks really disorganized right now, but it is trying to get its act together, and the development is expected as it begins to move into more favorable conditions and gets closer to the islands.
All right, so we'll talk about that because the islands are in play here, of course, looking at that potential area that we're watching for development. I mean, ocean water temperatures are warm. This is something we've been talking about since the beginning of the season, how off the charts warm they are. So that'll play a role, just provide the energy for the system to work off of.
Of course, one of the most important things that they work with, but then also you've got to look at where this is being steered. This high pressure is steering the storm northwestward and still trying to decide exactly where the models want to put this system, how close to the islands they want to bring it.
Yeah, and they're different too. I mean, GFS does develop something. The European, nothing. The Korean model develops it kind of, but north of here. I mean, like, so there's so many different options right now, especially because it hasn't formed yet, so it's hard to predict exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah, well, the models have a hard time latching on when you don't have that center, so still a lot to watch, but our next name on the list would be Tammy.
Okay. Well, let's go back to our question of the day. It is in the Northeast this weekend.
It's like we're stuck in that same pattern. You know, it would be a fantastic pattern if it was like Tuesday, Wednesday. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, it's rainy instead of your Saturday, Sunday. But that's just not what we're getting.
No, and the temperature changes are a big one as well. So we're going to talk more about that, you know, looking ahead to what kind of warm up we're going to see, because it's been chilly the past few mornings in the east.
It's a full closet type of month that we've got going on right now, because you're starting with your sweaters in lots of places and ending in shorts in some places by the afternoon.
Yes, when you're going through your closet trying to find all the clothes that you needed to get out from last season. So we're going to take a look at what we can expect here as we watch temperatures change and warm up, actually. I mean, we already have a pretty warm ridge of high pressure, and we've been feeling it in the southwest, where Phoenix yesterday said 105 degrees. That was a record high for the date, as you can imagine. And maybe you can't. Actually, it's not normal to be this warm this late in the season. That was our warmest we've been so late in the season. And today we're going to be still finding some warm stuff there in the southwest. Albuquerque, we're going to the 80s. Dallas, we're warming up a little bit more, going to the 70s. And you'll see temperatures in Atlanta and Nashville and even D.C. I would say, while they're not going to be that much different than yesterday, the difference is you'll have more sunshine, and that will feel better for you right there. Miami, tomorrow we're going to the mid 80s. So enjoy today in the 70s if you'd like that cool kind of thing. This big high pressure that that we're talking about is going to spread, and it's going to warm across the southern plains. We will see that as we get into mid to late week. Temperatures are going up, and actually it expands to the west as well. So we see temperatures warming in Washington, in Oregon, in California, and we're going to have record high levels all over the place. In Ely, Nevada, 80. That would break the old record of 77. Bakersfield, how about 96 degrees? That would tie the record. Fresno, California, going to 94. It's a big warm up coming in. Even in Reno, we're going to feel it there. Temperatures warming to record levels. And it continues in Arizona. Tucson going to 99. Not quite 100, but this is still a record. The old record is 97. So yes, this is not normal to be getting temperatures this warm this late in the season here in Arizona. Montana, we're going to hit some records, 73 degrees. And how about Texas? San Antonio, 95, breaking a record. Oklahoma City, we'll get up there too. Our temperatures today still running close to average. We're 74 degrees. Really nice day, but we see temperatures warming up. And I won't say that this isn't a nice day. Temps in the low 80s with some lower humidity. Still pretty comfortable out there, and we'll see that right through the end of the week in Oklahoma City and Kansas City. We are close to average, just a smidge above, and then we warm up a little above average by the time we get to the weekend. The key is always, is it going to be raining or not? We should have pretty good weather here. What about in the Northeast and Felicia and the Phillies game?
Yeah, if you're headed out to the tonight of game 2, we know what the outcome is going to be for our weekend, sadly, or at least we kind of know. It is going to be another messy weekend. The exact pinpoint details of that still to be ironed out as we head through the next several days. So as we head through the middle part of our week, we've got this low pressure system. This is going to be traveling across the Great Lakes region and dragging a cold front across the southeast. The rain is increasing, of course, along that cold front. We're going to bring some cooler air behind it, but those are the dynamics closer to the surface. As you head up in the atmosphere, we have this dip in the jet stream. Those upper level winds are going to be strong and conducive for a really potent system forming right off the coast as we head through the later part of the week and into the weekend. That low pressure lifts northeast, and the models are still trying to figure out exactly where they want to put it. But regardless, we know we're going to get some wind and rain out of this. It's going to be another blustery weekend across the northeast. So let's time it out for you. Starting with Thursday, you can see that rain stretching from the Great Lakes region down through portions of the Tennessee Valley. It fills in Friday across the eastern seaboard, down through the southeast. And then as we head into your weekend, yet again, that fills in across the northeast. We're talking to you in NYC, Boston, Philly. You guys are getting in on that rain and that wind. Heading into Sunday, it's sticking around. Of course, have more details on all of this coming up after the break.
You and all our road warrior crews often deal with terrifying conditions, and you could find yourself in a similar situation this winter.
Yeah, you could. Meteorologist Chris Warren introduces us to 3 stress-induced highways.
The dew that kind of gets in there, I think they're so slippery.
Yeah, I never realized just how slippery leaves could be until I was somewhere where the leaves had already started falling, and it really is. It's like trying to stop on ice because you just don't get any traction.
Yeah, so here's a look at where we are leaf-wise across the country. In terms of peak, we are past peak at the highest spots in the Wasatch and in some of the Rockies in Wyoming and Colorado. But, you know, there's a lot of really perfect color right now out here in the West.
There's a lot of really perfect color, too, as you look across the Great Lakes region, down through portions of the Mid-Atlantic, even up across the Northeast. You know, sometimes you get worried with all that rain. What's it going to do to the leaves that we've been seeing so much of this rain? But right now, it's still looking pretty good. You
know, you worry the most about the wind bringing down the leaves, and luckily that hasn't been a big factor. So looking good travel-wise. Be cautious out there. There might be a few showers today, just dotting the landscape. It's not going to be a perfectly blue sky kind of day, which is, I think, optimal for taking pictures.
With the leaves just against that blue backdrop, you can't get any better than that. But we'll take it when you're talking about the peak areas here across portions of Vermont down through Massachusetts. Now, we do have some rain in the forecast according to the European model. Moderate rain in the forecast. The American model still bringing us quite a bit of rain for some of this area.
Maybe more even. So again, another tough weekend for doing those. It's not just about taking the fall drive. At this time of year, you want to get that family photo. You're planning on getting your holiday card picture with the leaves in the background. It's been tough. But if you are driving, reduce your speed when especially you have got leaves down and things are wet. Going slower, you'll have a little more time to stop.
And you want to make sure this is a good idea at all times, even when you're not dealing with leaves, but maintain a healthy distance between you and the driver in front of you. You never know how hard stopping might be, especially on those wet roads.
And remember how distracted everyone is too, right? They're all looking at the beautiful views. Well, don't forget our question of the day. We are asked
time of year. We know very well in both of those areas that even in October, you're not out of the woods.
It can happen. I mean, you know, usually by now you think, what are the odds? And that's true, but that's why you got to watch every threat just in case you're and plan accordingly. Wouldn't cancel any plans yet. We've got Invest 94L in the Atlantic, and then these two zones, Invest 90E in the area to watch in the Pacific. Let's head into 94L.
Now, as you look at it, I know it looks very disorganized when you're kind of trying to pick up on that swirl that we're so used to on the maps, but it's the 80% chance of development as it gets its act together and moves into more favorable conditions and very warm waters.
Yes. You know, look, the island's in play, and of course you don't want to see any impact to the islands, except that these tropical systems can bring rain. So if it doesn't organize, but it still moves through, just bringing some rain to fill up the cisterns, and you know, that could be a good thing, right?
If it doesn't organize.
If it doesn't organize, right.
And what we're keeping a close eye on is the waters that are just so warm, and that is like candy to a baby when you're talking about these tropical systems and water that warm.
Yeah, so the high pressure to the north is going to steer it. So we know, at least in the short term, it's going to be traveling from east to west. Then when does it get picked up and turned to the north is part of the question. Is it before it gets to the islands or when it gets to the islands?
If it gets turned a little bit north a little bit sooner, then maybe just a glancing blow, and that of course would be better. But what is it even going to be? The models are still not in great agreement about that either. They'll have a better idea of where this is going to end up tracking once we maybe get a little bit more organization.
Yeah. The fact, though, that we've got another front and trough that is coming in across the East Coast again, and sorry about your rainy weekend, it is going to help keep anything tropical off the East Coast.
If you have to find your silver lining, it's like that trough comes in and kicks anything tropical away. Now, the next named system would be Tammy, if this system does get a name. So you can see we've been steadily working our way through our names this year.
We only have 2 more names. There is an auxiliary list should we need to get to that here if we get through it all. So there are names, and it's not the Greek alphabet. Let's go over to the Pacific. We've got this area with a 90% chance of developing. The zone is just offshore, but too close to shore to be comfortable.
Yeah, and this is looking a little bit healthier this morning. You can see that it's breathing pretty well as this lifts northwestward. A little too close for comfort if you're trying to plan out your vacation. Certainly is something you want to watch closely there.
Yeah, there's another area to watch, 70% chance of developing with this one. The models, though, have been all over the place with either one of these. Which of them could actually move north and impact us on land? They've been back and forth. They've been flipping. So, look, you got to just wait for one to develop, and then we got to get the forecast from there.
A better idea, I'd say, just still too soon. So just wait and be patient. I know that's hard when you're thinking about vacation plans.
Yeah. Well, you know, we've got all seasons to talk about, and this snowplow on the road in New York, and then you get stuck. So that's part of the stress, too, where, you know, you're stuck at home because you can't go out because the roads are bad.
And a lot of times you don't have any electricity either, so you're stuck at home with no electricity, and it's like, when is this ever going to be over? I don't know. I think it just depends. Pretty much all of them are bad. We can equally say all the above.
But I even think, and we didn't put this as a choice, a bright sunny day can have its own challenges with the
when
sun
the sun's
glare
coming up or the sun going down, especially.
Events in your life.
That's right. The Weather Channel has you covered from coast to coast. This is the time of year when our closets are a challenge, even more so than normally, because we go from shorts to sweaters, back to shorts, and sometimes just in days, but sometimes in one day.
Yes, literally. I think there's just a delay every morning because you have to go find the clothes from the last season, right? You need the jackets, you need the boots, you need everything. It's also National Mulligan Day, though, and a mulligan is a do.
Let's talk about where you are feeling that October chill, because a lot of us are feeling it. Well below average temperatures for millions of people. For today, this is our setup. We've got this big dip in the jet stream. It's allowing that cooler air to dive southward. So all along the Gulf Coast, up and down the Tennessee Valley, up until the Ohio River Valley, we're looking at temperatures 5 to 10 degrees below average for this time of year. Now, I will say we're not too far from average when you look around the Great Lakes. Places like Chicago and Detroit, you're not too far from where you should be starting out, maybe just a tad bit cooler. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, same thing. Today, your highs will be just a few degrees below average. It's not that much different from what you're used to. In, say, Detroit, you should be in the lower 60s this time of year. So the mid-50s are below average, but it's not like a shock to the system. Meanwhile, we're feeling that big difference in the south, not just because of the temperatures, but because of the dew points. Sometimes I think the dew points are what actually makes all the difference. So when that air is cooler, you get that crisp, cool chill that you're getting. So in Nashville and Atlanta, we're in the 50s right now. Upper 50s in Tallahassee. Meanwhile, places like OKC, going to be a pretty nice day. Mid 70s for you. Nashville, Atlanta, down through Tallahassee. We're looking at temperatures 5 to 10 degrees cooler than they should be for this time of year, though. And that drier air, it all comes together to give that little Christmas. Well, I guess it does kind of feel Christmassy, right? Crispness to the air. Tomorrow morning, we're still down in the 40s in places like Jackson, over in Raleigh. Tallahassee, though, that Florida panhandle. I know when you think of Florida, you don't think of the 40s a lot, but you guys are getting down into those 40s. Now, here's what's happening in Pittsburgh. You're pretty significantly or a bit below average today. By tomorrow, you're right around average. And by Thursday, you're actually getting above average. You've got a warm front that's going to be lifting across Pennsylvania, bringing that warm, moist air with it, and then a cold front sweeps through, bringing us rain and cooler temperatures Friday into Saturday. So that's how your week is breaking up in Pittsburgh. You're on a little bit of a weather roller coaster. Meanwhile, in Atlanta, nothing to complain about unless you're me and Jen each morning, because it is chilly. It's crisp out there. It's kind of cold in the mornings, but by the afternoon, especially tomorrow afternoon, even Thursday, we're looking at sunny to mostly sunny, and then that front moves through and you can see that dip in the temperatures once again. So, you know, Jen, it is nice to have that crisp, cool air in the afternoons with the sunshine.
Yes, in the afternoon. The mornings have been chilly.
Not so much.
Yes, and temperatures are going to stay pretty chilly across the South since mid-March, all the way down to South Florida here in Miami. That is you. We've warmed back up a little bit. We're at 69 right now in Miami, still at 67 in Naples and West Palm. It's chilly. Your dew points have dropped off. Your temperatures have dropped. Even Key West enjoying a nice 73. Tallahassee, we were down in the 40s, though we've warmed up to 59. So with that dry air and with the sunshine, you can warm up pretty quickly. Dew points are down, though. So Tallahassee, your low is 47. Your dew point is 47. When you have a clear, cool night like this with not a lot of wind, you can get down to the dew point. That's a good way of trying to forecast what those overnight lows are going to be. So another night where we're dropping down probably at least to the low 50s, if not even some spots getting down into the 40s. We've got the sunshine. Temps today going to 73. There's a launch out at Cape Canaveral this afternoon there at Kennedy Space Center. It's at 5:20, I believe. So you should have a nice clear view of it here. Look up. It's about a little after 5 o'clock. Want to look up and see that. And we'll have clear skies going into the evening. Again, overnight temps dropping into the 50s from Tampa to Orlando. We will be in the 40s again from Tallahassee over towards Jacksonville, right along the I-10. And Miami, after another cool start tomorrow, will start the warm-up back. But we don't really gain the humidity right now. So, yes, beautiful. 84 degrees. This is the kind of weather you live for, right? Now it's warm and sunny, but it's not hot and humid like we have had all summer long, up until the weekend. We've got temperatures on Thursday going back to 86 in Miami and 84 in West Palm. A lot of sunshine out there, though. You know, be a few clouds from time to time, but no rain really in the forecast looking ahead to your Thursday. And it's not even Halloween, and we've got the first snow.
And we are not thinking about jackets or coats or sweaters at all when we're dealing with the above average temperatures, because we're not just talking about a little above average for much of the western portions of the country. We're talking about a lot of record heat as well. For a place like Denver, you should be in the mid 60s. Instead, today, we are edging toward 20 degrees above average. You're going to make it into the lower 80s. Now, Wednesday, you do have a little bit of a dip, but you're still above average, and then you can see upper 70s, lower 80s throughout the rest of the week. So it's feeling anything except October-like there in the Mile High City. And you might be like, come on, we're ready for a cool down. But you're not the only one dealing with that. You can see today we've got 61 million people above average. And by Thursday, we really see this maximize. In fact, the whole western half of the country above average, 117 million people. We've got highs 5 to 15 degrees above average for millions of us. We've got high pressure in control right now through the early part of the week. And then we have an even stronger high pressure taking control as we head through the late part of the week into the weekend. So that is why you're seeing these above average temperatures stick around. And that is going to result in some record warm temperatures. Some records, old records, will be falling as we head through the second portion of the week. So for Thursday in Phoenix, your forecast is 104 degrees. We're seeing triple digits late into the season like we typically don't see. Phoenix, just for reference, should be in the upper 80s this time of year. So that is so far above average. We're looking at the possibility for smashing records for places like Fresno, where your forecast is 94. The old record is 92, set back in 1921. So we would break a record that's more than 100 years old. Reno, you have that forecast for a record as well. Heading into Friday, it doesn't get much better. Vegas, we know it's hot in Vegas, right? But by this time of year, your highs should be in the lower 80s in Vegas. Instead, we're looking at the lower 90s. Meanwhile, places like Albuquerque up in the lower 80s as well, so that heat is sticking around and it is smashing some of those records. Well, it's one warm day and the
Rockies, Montana, Wyoming, a lot of wind energy as the system crosses in. You can see it moving in on the water vapor right now. That's where you got all the moisture coming in. See it kind of filling in along the mountains first with that upslope that we're seeing right there. A lot of energy behind it though too. So it's windy out ahead of it and then really gusty with those west winds behind the system. That's, I think, what's driving most of the wind advisories and wind warnings that we have out there. A couple of showers there across western Montana right now. We have high wind warnings posted all across northern Montana, including around Glasgow and Havre. You've got high wind watches too, all the way down to Cheyenne and out here towards the Black Hills, Rapid City, a lot of western South Dakota. We're expecting wind to pick up as you get into tonight. So here's that front as it moves midweek here right through the Midwest. It moves from the west heading over here, and now we're going to see this front maybe picking up a little bit of moisture. It's not going to have a ton with it. There'll be some rain. We'll get that through Minnesota, Wisconsin, through parts of Michigan. Yes, as we get you into the end of the week, rain spreads into Pennsylvania. We'll see some of that through parts of the South too, but it's not a widespread heavy rain. It's just hard for these kind of fronts in October to pick up that much moisture. The air is just too dry, and we're not going to see a big return in dew points across this area, but we'll see some rain chances. And, you know, look, it's better than none. This is a spot that needs rain pretty badly. We've got a lot of drought in place, especially in Minnesota. We're going to be watching those showers move through. One round comes in first Thursday, Friday, and then we see just another spoke of energy around this upper level low, bringing another chance of rain into at least early Saturday here through Michigan. It only adds up to maybe an inch. Most spots getting less than that all across parts of the Midwest. Then it heads to the Northeast yet again in time for the weekend, Felicia.
I can't catch a break on the weekends. If you are an introvert, you might be loving this weather because this is cancel plans weather, weekend after weekend. In New York City, you've had 6 of 7 of the past weekends. It has been rainy. Boston, Philly, Providence, 5 of the last 7. And you can see Saturday, we've got a pretty good washout forecast. Storms going on. Sunday, it may clear up. So a little bit of a split weekend for a lot of these cities. Here's what's going on. We've got our system that Jen was just talking about. You can see our low pressure and the cold front associated with it sweeping across, bringing some rain with it. Of course, behind it, you'll get another dip in those temperatures. That's closer to the surface. As we look higher up in the atmosphere, you've got this dip in the jet stream, and you've got a potent area of energy that is kind of moving along that strong upper level winds. All of that going to come together to help develop another system of low pressure just off the coast. As that low develops, as it gets its life together, really, you're going to see it traveling up the East Coast. Now, the model's not in great agreement what they want to do with this, exactly where they want to put it, the impacts that we want to get out of it. But once it forms, they will latch onto that better. We'll have a better chance of knowing exactly the impact you're going to have across the Northeast, but I would say at least plan for rain and wind. The level of that rain and wind is TBD, so you'll have to stay tuned here. Watch what happens as we head through Friday. You start to see some of that rain forming along the coast and the rain moving in from the west. Eventually, we just see all of this disturbance come together, and that brings us rain stretching from the Great Lakes region all the way to the coast. As you head through your Friday, into your Saturday, into your Sunday, we do start to see this tapering off, but your Saturday is definitely going to be messy and windy. And regardless of exactly where the system ends up tracking, Jen, it's just another, at least one day of your weekend that's messy. But sometimes I think that that is the best type of weekend because you've got one day to stay inside and clean and do laundry and cancel all your plans. And then you have another day where you can go and frolic.
That is ideal because when it's super nice out, I feel bad not being outside.
Me too. It actually makes me sad to adult, and then I just don't do it. And then I'm like, oh man, I don't have any clean gym pants.
Right. The challenges are real for sure. Well, the rain that we'll see this week is just one of the things.
It's about the people around you.
Yes. Although I think fog, rain, those kind of situations, you have many more people who don't slow down.
Yeah, fog can be the worst. Some people were saying fog and you might think, what? But with fog, it's like you can't see it all. I've definitely been in fog before where you just couldn't see where you were going at all.
Even if you know where you're going, you can't see your turns. You can't see like the landmarks and things that you use to know when you're going to have to turn. All of that makes for a stressful drive. Well, you can go to X and Threads to share your comments. You can vote in our Well, let's check in on the tropics. You know, we are in mid-October, still in tropical season, and there's always like a little peak in mid-October.
Yeah. You know, there's always focus on August and September, as there rightly should be. But there have been some formidable storms in October, and we are still watching some systems out there.
I mean, nothing right now that, of course, is at that level. We've got an Invest 94L in the Atlantic. We've got Invest 90E in the Pacific, and also another area to watch behind it. But it just, you know, we look back to know that we can't write off the hurricane season yet. It still can be active all the way through November, and honestly, it happens in December. It's just not likely.
Yeah, those are man-made borders that we put on hurricane season. Mother Nature doesn't always follow that. Right now, we're watching Mother Nature trying to get the act together on this system. 80% chance of development, looking a little bit better this morning, but what is expected to happen is improvement as it travels into more, what is the word I'm looking for, more favorable conditions.
I mean, there's been some dry air over the past few days kind of working in. It looks like that's not really a factor anymore. Just really waiting to see if that circulation gets its life together, to steal your line, because I love that about, you were talking about an East Coast system. But yeah, that's what we're looking at. I mean, the water temperature is plenty warm. That's been the case all season.
And that's one of the main things that you need. Now, the models are not in great agreement with how strong they want this to be, what they want to form, where they want to take it. But once we get a little bit better circulation, they're going to be able to grab onto this and decide kind of where it's going to end up being steered.
Right. So we'll watch. This is one model rendition with the chance of it moving towards the islands and then potentially developing at this point. And so, you know, that's something you got to keep an eye on, watching all those northern leeward islands, Guadeloupe, up towards, you know, even the Virgin Islands, but certainly St. Martin and Anguilla, Barbuda, all islands that are keeping an eye on this.
Now, what's happening is we're getting this kind of steered off to the north and west, and then eventually the north by high pressure. But we're also watching the role that this dip in the jet stream, this trough, is going to play in the steering of this system.
Yes. Now, next name on the list is Tammy. Then after that, there's only two more names. And by the way, you know, we do have an auxiliary list. We'll see if we have to get to that this year.
Yeah, we've got names. I know maybe your name or your head goes back to when we used the Greek alphabet. Won't be doing that anymore. There's a secondary list. But 15%, will we need extra names?
Yeah. I mean, look, 15%. We've got the rest of October and all of November still to go. And last year in November, I was covering Hurricane Nicole in Florida.
Yeah.
So we will see. This area has a 90% chance that we're watching off the coast of Mexico. And really, both of those zones that we're watching have a chance. There's just really right now no direction on where it's heading because they haven't formed yet.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on there. Well, it's been 2 months since wildfires devastated western Maui, but now some hotels are welcoming back visitors. The fires killed at least 97 people, and nearly all of the historic town of Lahaina was destroyed.
A recent study found that Maui lost more than $13 million a day in visitor spending. But as CBS News correspondent Jonathan Vigliotti shows us, the area and many living there are still struggling to recover. I'm sure there's a lot of internal conflict on whether to really encourage visitors to come back or not, because they do need it for their economy.
Yeah, but
it's still so raw.
You just want to, there's no solution that's ever going to please everyone. And I think that's the hard part, because there's always going to be people that want different things there.
Yeah, well, we can take you into the forecast for today. Wise, there'll also be a cross-country front that we're watching. But like most October storms, this one won't have a ton of moisture with it when it goes to the middle.
Yeah, no, it won't. And where you're having the above average temperatures, you're really feeling them. Where we're having the below average temperatures, we're really feeling them. And in the middle, where that front is moving through, is where you get the action.
Yes,
not a ton, but
the changes.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk temperatures. Warmest or coldest since March for a lot of us. Like in Miami and Houston. I took a look at your numbers this morning. You were down to numbers like you haven't seen since early March. So, you know, we're going to see a warm up, but today is still one of those days where we're running below average thanks to this dip in our jet stream across the east. And that includes us all the way down through South Florida. It was a clean sweeping front, made it all the way through, all the way down into the Yucatan, actually. So even Cancun saw a drop off in some temperatures. Today, we are going to find readings in the mid-60s, Atlanta, Nashville, Charlotte's in that as well. But better than yesterday. It's not that much warmer than yesterday, but actually will feel much better because there's more sunshine out there. So that is key. We've got 78 degrees for today in Miami. Today's going to be one of those cool, crisp days. Folks are going to be outside walking at lunch, taking maybe an extra long walk for your lunch break. Tomorrow we go a little warmer, back to the mid-80s, but still very nice because humidity is still low. And we're going to be watching this big ridge of high pressure that's been in the west start to build further to the east. So for us here in the southwest, it has been warm, and we've got temperatures numbers that are been in the triple digits. Yesterday, Phoenix 105. That was a new record for the date and the warmest so late in the season. We're going to have more records today. Flagstaff, up towards Las Vegas. I mean, all across the West today and tomorrow, and even getting into the weekend, it's going to be warm. So this is for your Thursday. Temperatures warming up in California. Bakersfield, 96 degrees. Yes, that would tie a record. Fresno, 94. That would break a record. I mentioned Washington. How about Yakima going to 77? That would be record breaking. Believe it or not, that's really warm at this point in the season. We should be in our cloudy and rainy and, coolish time of year. So we've seen some of that to start the week, but we're going to finish with some warm stuff. Friday's forecast in Tucson, still hot, 99 degrees. Not 100, but we're still up there. Missoula, Montana, 73. That would be a record. How about Texas, San Antonio, and Austin? We're going to 95 and 94. That would be record breaking. And we'll see the numbers go up in Oklahoma City. Maybe not breaking a record, but we're going to be in the 80s for you Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. All right, let's get into the Northeast and talk more about what's happening there. What about the
eyes will be on what happens there later on this evening with the Diamondbacks taking on the Phillies, and then looking ahead, will we finally get some sunshine this weekend? I think we're going to have a bit of a split weekend. Saturday currently is definitely looking like the worst day for cities like Philly. Here's what's happening. We have our storm that's moving coast to coast. By the middle part of the week, it's up around the Great Lakes region, dragging that cold front through the southeast. As the front moves through, you're going to get some rain and then a little bit of a dash of cooler air once again. Now, when we talk about the low pressure systems at the surface and those fronts, that's a little lower in the atmosphere, heading up in the atmosphere when we're talking about the dips in the jet stream. And these upper level disturbances, you can see all of that energy. When we're talking about that, that's basically what we're talking about. We're talking about energy. And you know that energy can't be destroyed. It just has to be transferred. And what this is transferring into in this area of lift is a messy storm system that's going to travel up the eastern seaboard. And where exactly it tracks, that's yet to be determined just yet by those models. It'll have a better idea once it starts to form off the coast. But regardless, we're looking at wind and rain for the Northeast. The actual level of all of that, we'll have to wait and see. So here's our Thursday. We've got our low pressure and our cold front stretching from the Great Lakes down through the Tennessee Valley, stretching eastward as we head into Friday, filling in across Pennsylvania, down through the Virginias and Carolina, Georgia, getting in on some of that wetness as well. And then heading into Saturday, you can see the wind and rain. That is really going to be the story of your Saturday for much of the Northeast. Sunday, it looks a little bit better for much of this area, but we'll still have some rain hanging around, and we'll have much more on that forecast coming up. So stick around.
And all our road warrior crews often deal with terrifying conditions, and you could find yourself in a similar situation this winter.
Yeah, you could. Meteorologist Chris Warren introduces us to 3 stress-induced highways.
Meaning the dew that kind of gets in there, I think they're so slippery.
Yeah, I never realized just how slippery leaves could be until I was somewhere where the leaves had already started falling, and it really is. It's like trying to stop on ice because you just don't get any traction.
Yeah, so here's a look at where we are leaf-wise across the country. In terms of peak, we are past peak at the highest spots in the Wasatch and in some of the Rockies in Wyoming and Colorado. But, there's a lot of really perfect color right now out here in the West.
There's a lot of really perfect color, too, as you look across the Great Lakes region, down through portions of the Mid-Atlantic, even up across the Northeast. Sometimes you get worried with all that rain. What's it going to do to the leaves that we've been seeing so much of this rain? But right now, it's still looking pretty good.
You worry the most about the wind, bringing down the leaves. And luckily, that hasn't been a big factor. So looking good travel-wise. Be cautious out there. There might be a few showers today, just dotting the landscape. It's not going to be a perfectly blue sky kind of day, which is, I think, optimal for taking pictures.
With the leaves just against that blue backdrop, you can't get any better than that. But we'll take it when you're talking about the peak areas here across portions of Vermont, down through Massachusetts. Now, we do have some rain in the forecast according to the European model. Moderate rain in the forecast. The American model still bringing us quite a bit of rain for some of this area.
Maybe more, even. So, again, another tough weekend for doing those. It's not just about taking the fall drive. But this time of year, you want to get that family photo. You're planning on getting your holiday card picture with the leaves in the background. It's been tough. But if you are driving, reduce your speed when especially you have got leaves down down and things are wet, going slower, you'll have a little more time to stop.
And you want to make sure this is a good idea at all times, even when you're not dealing with leaves, but maintain a healthy distance between you and the driver in front of you. You never know how hard stopping might be, especially on those wet roads.
And remember how distracted everyone is too, right? They're all looking at the beautiful views. Well, don't forget our question of the day. We are asking...
Bundled up. They both don't look so bad.
Test my odds with these. There are two things to watch in the Pacific area to watch, and then this Invest 90E, I mean, this has a 90% chance of developing. I know it looks better on satellite, but there's still not a low-level circulation, nor is there with Invest 94L.
Invest 94L still definitely looking a little disorganized, but it's not necessarily about what it's looking like now, but what it might look like as it moves into more favorable conditions, kind of gets its act together. 80% chance of development as it moves here through this hatched region, somewhere either near or off the coast of the Leeward Islands.
Yeah, you know, it's been hot, and we showed you St. Thomas. They've had a heat advisory, I feel like, for days now, and so maybe they would be happy to get a little rain, just not a hurricane.
Yeah, a little beneficial rain, maybe. That would be nice, especially when you're talking about a break from the heat. We're not getting any break from the heat in terms of the ocean waters, though. You can see really warm waters. That is the fuel that we need for these tropical systems.
Yeah, it's been the case all season, just off the charts warm. So that continues, not changing, not expected that to change. So it's all about the other environmental conditions. There has been some dry air working into it. That seems to have gone away, and it's really kind of self-contained right now. So, you know, can the area that we're watching congeal into an area of low pressure, and that's really the next step.
Now you can see the latest model run. Model's not really sure where they want to put it, putting the center of circulation a little bit farther away from the islands now, but it's something we're going to have to watch until we get a better grip on maybe that circulation. Models have a hard time on where they want to drive it.
It's hard to forecast something that doesn't exist, right? That's one of the biggest challenges of weather forecasting. But the bigger features are easier to forecast, and we know that we're going to have a trough swinging off the East Coast. That's bringing your rain to the Northeast again this weekend, but it will help steer and pull whatever this becomes up to the north. Next name on the list is Tammy.
Right, exactly. Will it get a name? I don't know. We've got Tammy, and then after Tammy, two more names on our first list, Vince and Whitney.
Well, this snowplow on the road in New York State is getting ready.
Snow accumulating on my hood while I was driving. I'd be like, it's time for a coffee break. I'm just going to sit here until whenever and wait it out, because that's a double whammy. I was driving around Crater Lake when I was in Oregon for the eclipse, and there was snow and ice on the roads. In the shady spots, it lasted into the afternoon. And that could get you, especially when you're not expecting it. Especially when you're not expecting it, because early October, you're not expecting it yet. But yeah. At Elevation, mid-morning hours, getting you ready for all the big events in your life. We sure are. The Weather Channel has you covered from coast to coast. This is the time of year when our closets are a challenge, because we go from shorts to sweaters and back to shorts, sometimes in one day, sometimes in a multitude of days, and that's what a lot of us are going to be doing. I think you really need extra time at this time of year, because you have to start getting out the boots and the jackets and everything else. I was like, where's my turtleneck? I haven't worn a turtleneck in so long until this morning. I had to dig through my closet for it. All of a sudden, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, you're running late. Well, it is National Mulligan Day, so maybe you could take a mulligan. Finish anyone's feeling of temperature, though, because I've had a lot of people look at me and be like, it is not cold. And I'm like, yes, it is. So even if where you are, it's 50 degrees and that's cold to you, that is just fine. Just layer up. So here's what's going on. We've got this dip in the jet stream. It's allowing the cold air to dive all the way down through the southeast. That's the setup that we're stuck in. So we've got highs 5 to 10 degrees below average throughout the day today. And you'll notice some of the darker blues here. In the higher elevations, you've got those highs even more below average. So places like Asheville, you might be feeling some of that extra October chill along with this. Now, temperatures right now, 49 in Detroit, 54 in Chicago. We're in the lower 50s in Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. These temperatures across the Great Lakes region down through the Ohio Valley, not crazy below average, but just enough that you're probably going to notice a difference. For instance, in Detroit, you should be in the lower 60s today. So 56, not crazy far from where you should be, but it is a little below average. It's a different story as you look farther south. Right now, we're in the upper 50s in Nashville and Atlanta, lower 60s in Jackson. Dallas, you're also in the upper 50s. This is probably a nice little crisp break for Dallas, where it's been so hot. You're headed for the mid 70s today, which is a little below average. Nashville and Atlanta about 10 degrees below average, a little less than that. Tallahassee 71. You should certainly be warmer than that. By tomorrow morning, we're back down in the 40s. That Florida Panhandle 40s there. That is about 10 degrees below average. Raleigh 40s for you too. Same thing in Jackson, Mississippi. For a place like Pittsburgh, you're below average in the mid 50s. You'll climb to around average in the lower 60s by tomorrow. And then what happens Thursday is we have a warm front lifting north. It's going to bring in some of that warmth and that moisture. It's going to result in some cloud cover, but then a cold front swings through. That knocks your temperatures back down to below average, and it brings you some rain Friday into Saturday there in Pittsburgh. In Atlanta, Wednesday, can't complain at all here. Lower 70s, sunshine, perfect afternoon to get outside, but make sure you bundle up in the morning because it's going to be chilly. We get closer to average by Thursday, and then temperatures take a little dip for your Friday morning with a bit of rain. Could have some rain around wet roads maybe for your commute. Nashville temperatures at slightly above average for the middle part of the week before they take another dip thanks to that next front. So, Jen, with this last front we saw, it made it all the way down into South Florida.
Yeah, I mean, temps got really chilly this week by Miami standards. I'm sure everyone was bundled up here, maybe even breaking out the puffy coats. I don't know, perhaps West Palm. I think we were in the upper 50s there. Now we've already warmed up, though, to 70 in West Palm and Fort Lauderdale, or 70 in Naples. We have temperatures into the 70s in Miami as well. Tallahassee, we started in the 40s this morning. We have now warmed up to 61. So nice dry air can do that. You can really drop off at night and then warm up quite nicely into the afternoon. And that's because the dew points are low. And overnight, when you have a clear, calm night like that, your temps can drop down to the dew point. So it's often a good measure of like, what's the coldest it could get? Well, our dew point is Tallahassee. So in theory, we could get that cold overnight tonight if we don't see any changes. Orlando, we've got dew points in the 40s. Same with Tampa, same with Jacksonville. Now overnight tonight, we will drop down again to some cool numbers, but not that cold in Orlando. We're going to warm up to 73 in Orlando today. Off to the Space Coast, a beautiful afternoon. We've got a launch today, another one at Kennedy Space Center. It's another Starlink satellites launch, so you can check that out about 5:20. Look up, you'll have clear skies, good visibility. You should be able to see that there as the launch happens just after 5 o'clock. Now, overnight, though, I mentioned the cool temperatures, so we're going to get to the mid-50s, Tampa to Orlando. Tallahassee and Jacksonville, though, look at that. You're going close to your dew point, 47 in Tallahassee, 48 in Jacksonville, Miami. We got another night in the low 60s, but then tomorrow we warm up just a little bit more. A beautiful afternoon in Miami, 84 degrees without the humidity. That is going to be nice here. We haven't had this kind of weather since March. Really, that's the last time we saw temperatures this cold in the overnight. So this is really going to feel good for us. And we'll keep it dry as well. That continues into Thursday, a nice stretch along the Gulf Coast. Pensacola, you're going to the upper 70s. Dry conditions continue there and warming up just a few more degrees into your Thursday, Tampa to Orlando and down through the Florida Keys in the low 80s. Now, it's not even Halloween, and we've got the first snow.
We are not thinking about jackets or sweaters or anything like that where we have the above average temperatures, because it's not just warm, it is record warmth in some places. For a place like Denver, you're headed for the lower 80s today. Now, your average high in the Mile High City should be in the mid 60s, so we're nearing 20 degrees above average for Denver. By Wednesday, a little bit closer to average in the lower 70s, but doesn't last very long. Those temperatures heat right back up into the upper 70s and lower 80s as we head through the week there in Denver. So you guys are just cooking out there. And if you feel like, I'm so tired of this, I'm tired of the heat, don't worry, you're not alone. You can see millions of people, especially Thursday, pretty much the entire western half of the country with 117 million people above average. This pattern is just not letting go. We've got highs 5 to 15 degrees above average as we head through the early part of our week with this high pressure that's already in place, but we've got an even stronger high that's going to move in, it's going to take over, and it is going to keep these record warm temperatures around. That is the pattern that we're just going to be stuck in from the Pacific Northwest all the way down into the southern plains. All those little red dots indicative of where we could see some records. So for Thursday, Phoenix, you're headed for 104 degrees. You might be like, what's the big deal? Phoenix is hot, right? Well, Phoenix should be in the upper 80s this time of year, so that is significantly hotter than you should be. Sacramento, lower 90s, that is way hotter than you should be for this time of year. For a place like, say, Fresno, your forecast on Thursday, 94 degrees. The old record, 92. That would break a more than 100-year-old record. And, Jen, we're seeing these highs stick around well above average into Friday as well.
Yeah, I mean, temps start building out there, but across Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, we've got a lot of wind advisories, all because of this system moving through. We've got some jet stream energy associated with it. You can kind of see that behind the system when you see these striations in the clouds in here, some wind shear that's going on, some stronger winds creating that. That's going to be one of our biggest stories across the area. Now, we're going to have some precip. You can see that across western Montana right now. A lot of it up into Canada. I won't say a lot, but more of it up into Canada. No one really has a ton of moisture out of this thing. It doesn't really have that moisture connection. We are looking at high wind warnings, though, and that's what we'll see a lot of. Wind for you in Montana, wind advisories there around Butte, Montana, high wind watches down here towards Cheyenne. Travelers on I-80 are going to feel it as we get through the day today into tonight, and then continuing to tomorrow, too. Rapid City under high wind watch. We'll start to see conditions get windier as we get through the overnight hours. This is the front that's the culprit for that. This is going to sweep through the Midwest, heading through the Great Lakes. It doesn't have a ton of moisture with it, so we'll get some rainfall, but we're not going to get a lot of rain, which might be bad news. You do need it up here with the drought in place. You probably got more last weekend or the end of last week with our system that came through than we're going to get out of this one. Showers are possible, but you see how they're kind of fleeting. This is through the day into Thursday, and then Friday sweeping east through Michigan, moving to northern Ohio. I mean, there'll be some rain. It's not going to be a great day out there. There'll definitely be clouds around, but I don't think there'll be really heavy downpours that last all day, the kind of rain that we need, actually. So it's about up to an inch, the kind of rain that we're looking at as we look ahead to the forecast. Again, not great considering all the drought that we have that's been expanding over the Midwest, Felicia. And then the Northeast, who doesn't really need the more rain, we get it.
Yeah, it's like if we could just kind of don't need any more rain. It's across much of the Northeast where we've had rainy weekend after rainy weekend. Don't believe me? Well, we're going to map it out for you here because you can see in New York City, we've had 6 of the last 7 weekends have been rainy. Providence, Boston, and Philly, 5 of the last 7 weekends have been rainy. Now, this is actually kind of my favorite kind of weekend that we're going to have in New York City and Providence because you can see Saturday looks messy, but Sunday right now the forecast is for it to clear out. So you get a split weekend. You've got one day where you get the weather to cancel plans and the next day where you use the weather to make plans. So that's the perfect kind of balance of the two. We've got that front that's going to be moving through at surface levels. In the higher levels of the atmosphere, we've got all of this energy, really potent dip in the jet stream that's going to be swinging through with this trough. Strong upper level winds as well, all of that coming together to help this low pressure system develop off the coast. Now, the model's not in great agreement exactly what they want to do with it yet because it hasn't formed yet. It's that same thing as Jen was saying, hard to predict something that's not quite there. So the model's still trying to decide exactly what they want to do with the track, but we are expecting rain and wind across the Northeast. The level at which that impacts you still yet to be seen, but we know it's going to be a bit messy. You can see the rain filling in across the Northeast as we head through your day on Friday and then into Saturday. So, you know, Jen, as I was saying, Saturday is not going to be your best day. Friday night, Saturday, not going to be the best time, but that's your time to catch up on all of your adulting that you need to do. Maybe you do your fall decor indoors. Maybe you make your pumpkin pies or whatever. And then Sunday, you can go out and frolic.
Enjoy the outside and the leaves, which are in beautiful fall bloom right now.
If that wind doesn't blow them all around.
Yes.
It's going to be windy.
Well, so that's part of the story. You know, we'll see wind, we'll see rain, and it's just one of the things that can make being in your car, you know, 2 reasons I think fog is the worst. One is you don't know where you are sometimes, right? You can't see anything. You don't know about the car in front of you, how close they are. It's even tough with lights, you know, to see through it. The other is you can really sort of lose how fast you're going in the fog because you don't have like those benchmarks, like I'm passing another car, I'm passing a building, etc.
And it's one thing if you're somewhere where you know where you are, but if you happen to be in an area or on a road that you don't drive very often and there's curves or whatever, that adds a whole other level to not being able to see where you're going or where you are.
And if Greg Postel was here, he'd say, well, there could be ghosts.
Yeah, hiding in the fog. That's the perfect place.
Could see wild temperature swings from one day to the next.
Yeah, let's take a closer look at the tale of 2 Octobers and what exactly causes it.
When you watch this, you got to wonder, why do people love October so much?
Yeah, it's the people that are mainly just getting the leaves changing that are loving October.
There is plenty of good weather in October, but the tropics can still be busy, as you heard, so that's why we're keeping a keen eye on Invest 90E in the Pacific, area to watch behind that, and then Invest 94L in the Atlantic.
Yeah, we've got a couple different areas that have a high chance of development, so we're keeping a close eye on them. Of course, Invest 94L with an 80% chance of development, and that is going to happen as it continues to get its act together, moving here closer to the Leeward Islands.
So, islands in play, they're certainly no strangers to tropical systems, and watching one like this, the potential is that it may come in weak and just bring some rainfall, which is good. I mean, that's sort of the good side of tropical systems. They do bring moisture. The issue would be if it got stronger and, of course, brought hazards.
Especially if you can just keep it weak. Now, when you look at the temps of the ocean waters that this is going to be moving through, that is not going to be causing any issues. In fact, that's going to be fueling it really well. Those systems, those tropical systems, just thrive with such warm water. High
pressure to the north will be steering. There's a lot of certainty in that. We'll be watching a trough come in. There's a lot of certainty in that, helping to pick it up. But really, the unknown is how much will it develop?
Right. And where exactly will it end up? The model's still trying to figure out exactly where they want
they've been a lot of back and forth on these. And this morning, the European had nothing even there. The GFS had something. And so, and other models looked at it, were in the same boat, with a lot of maybe, maybe not. So still one to watch. But regardless, the bigger features for steering will be in place here. So confident about that.
Yeah. Well, don't forget about our question of fallish this morning.
It felt, more like early winter than late fall. It was cold.
A nice, good, clear skies, low 70s, just have to be outside day. We're waiting for that. There are a lot of people in the Northeast right now that are saying, Jen, have you seen our weather recently?
Well, and really all the way down to Florida, where I would say this is real fall for them.
Oh, this is definitely fall for South Florida. Everyone's like, where's my lotion?
Yes, and they're thirsty, and they need the lip balm and everything else. I mean, we've got temperatures that have dropped all the way down through Florida. We're going to be watching today for another day with the below average readings all the way down through South Florida and the Florida Keys. I mean, the front was a clean sweeping front. It came all the way through thanks to this big old trough that came in across the east, and because this is still in place, it's going to keep us below average. Now, we do have a ridge that's building here across the west. We've already been feeling the heat, literally, in Arizona, where temperatures have been up at 100 degrees or higher. We were 105 in Phoenix yesterday. It'll be warm again today, staying in the triple digits in spots like in Phoenix, but also still warm in Albuquerque, 81. Dallas, we're going to warm up compared to yesterday, 75 degrees. Just watching that ridge start to build a little more. How about Denver at 88 or 83 degrees. It's a really nice warm fall day for you there. Tomorrow, it'll be a little cooler in Denver, 72. We got a front coming in. For us in Kansas City, it'll be about 70, but now we're warming up a little more in the east. So we're finally back into the 70s in Atlanta. This is the kind of weather I'm looking for. Miami, how about us? 84 degrees, and it's not going to be a humid 84, and that is what is key about it. We do have the dew points that have dropped off all the way down to Florida, and they don't rebound just yet, but we will see temperatures warming back up. I mean, maybe this is too high. I'm sure it is. 100 plus in October is too much. It was our warmest day so late in the season in Phoenix at 105 yesterday. We've got numbers going up to record levels through the rest of the week into the weekend as this big ridge of high pressure builds. So spots that just had a chilly rain yesterday, like in the Pacific Northwest, Portland, we had a pretty wet day with about an inch of rainfall. You're going to get warm. In fact, you're going to get hot in places like Bakersfield, California, 96 degrees. That'll tie a record. Fresno will beat a record at 94, even up to Washington, though. In Yakima, 77. That will break the old record of 75 degrees, and we'll do it again on Friday. Still seeing numbers close to 100 in Tucson, 99, breaking the old record of 97. Well, in the Northeast, well, what are we going to see here? We got the Phillies game tonight. How's that going to go?
As what we're looking at for the weekend, though, because that is going to be another round of rain for another weekend. You guys just can't get out of this stretch. Here's what's going on. We've got our cold front. That is going to move southeastward, sweeping through, bringing some rain along with it. That center of low pressure up around the Great Lakes. But what is happening is this dip in the jet stream, and we've got a ton of energy to work with here that's going to be swinging through as that trough or that dip moves through as well. You've got strong upper level winds, all of this coming together to create the lift in the atmosphere that is going to help to form this low pressure system off the southeast coast as we head through the latter part of the week. That is going to move out over the water and strengthen a bit. The model's still trying to decide exactly what they want to do with this, but regardless, we're looking at rain and wind again for the Northeast, at least for your Saturday. Now, depending on where that storm actually ends up tracking will depend or will determine the severity of the impacts that we actually see from this. So Thursday, that rain from the Great Lakes down through the Tennessee River Valley, spreading across the Ohio River Valley, down through the southeast, the Carolinas getting in on those rain showers and those storms Friday. Filling in Saturday throughout the day as well across the Northeast, New York, Boston, up through Burlington, Buffalo. You guys are all stuck in that rain on Saturday. Now, I will say by Sunday, you can see that most of this is confined to the interior regions of the Northeast. However, the track of that system could impact where we actually do end up seeing this rain. So that's something to keep an eye on. We could see some pretty hefty amounts across portions of New England. Because you might have skies like that. It might be beautiful while you're driving, but it might have been raining and windy beforehand. You're distracted by the leaves, and all of a sudden it's much harder to stop.
Right. Wet leaves are slippery, and some say slippery as ice, you know, close to it anyway. So we've got a lot of places where we're past peak, meaning the leaves have been coming down. That's in the Mountain West for sure. They look like at peak when I was up into Oregon, so I think that's where we are right now in the Northwest. Northeast, we're pretty much at peak, and by the day, there's getting to be more color. Yeah, and you can see we're nearing peak. The peak's starting to show up a little bit more as you move a bit farther south. So we'll start to see that sooner. What could be impacting some of your leaf peeping is the weather that we've been having. But if you're traveling today, great for leaf peeping there in the Northeast. Yeah, looking fantastic with just maybe a few minor showers. It's not going to be perfectly sunny. Maybe that's a good thing. You won't have that sun glare if you're driving home around, you know, what, 6 or 7 o'clock? 6, I guess, 6 o'clock now. Sun sets early, doesn't it? So early. And of course, it is nice to see it up against those blue skies, but it's better than having to deal with the rain, which is what we'll be looking forward to Thursday through maybe into Sunday for some of this area. Moderate rain from the European model, the American model bringing quite a bit of rain too. Yes, so there might be some leaves coming down. The wet leaves at that could be slippery out there on the roadways. Be careful. Hiking too, be careful. Yeah. You know, those leaves are really slippery when hiking. Can definitely catch you off guard too. You're just trying to catch your breath, especially if you're hiking with Jen, because we have done a few hikes. We've done a few hikes, and it can get slippery out there. Yes. Now, if you're driving, you want to leave extra stopping distance, just like you would do when roads are just plain old wet or when they're snowy or icy, because you need a lot more. Maintain a healthy distance between you and the driver in front of you. And clean those leaves off your vehicle before you get going. Nothing's more frustrating than having those leaves accidentally stuck underneath your windshield wiper and you just can't get it off. Yes. All right. Well, don't forget our question of the day. We're asking. Bundled up. They both don't look so bad. Test my odds with these. There are two things to watch in the Pacific area to watch. And then this Invest 90E, I mean, this has a 90% chance of developing. I know it looks better on satellite, but there's still not a low level circulation, nor is there with Invest 94L. Invest 94L still definitely looking a little disorganized, but it's not necessarily about what it's looking like now, but what it might look like as it moves into more favorable conditions, kind of gets its act together. 80% chance of development as it moves here through this hatched region somewhere either near or off the coast of the Leeward Islands. Yeah, you know, it's been hot, and we showed you St. Thomas. They've had a heat advisory, I feel like, for days now, and so maybe they would be happy to get a little rain, just not a hurricane. Yeah, a little beneficial rain maybe. That would be nice, especially when you're talking about a break from the heat. We're not getting any break from the heat in terms of the ocean waters, though. You can see really warm waters. That is the fuel that we need for these tropical systems. Yeah, it's been the case all season, just off the charts warms. That continues, not changing, not expected that to change. So it's all about the other environmental conditions. There has been some dry air working into it. That seems to have gone away, and it's really kind of self-contained right now. So, you know, can the area that we're watching congeal into an area of low pressure, and that's really the next step. Now you can see the latest model run. Model's not really sure where they want to put it, putting the center of circulation a little bit farther away from the islands now, but it's something we're going to have to watch until we get a better grip on maybe that circulation. Models have a hard time on where they want to drive it. It's hard to forecast something that doesn't exist, right? That's one of the biggest challenges of weather forecasting. But the bigger features are easier to forecast, and we know that we're going to have a trough swinging off the East Coast. That's bringing your rain to the Northeast again this weekend, but it will help steer and pull whatever this becomes up to the north. Next name on the list is Tammy. Right, exactly. Will it get a name? I don't know. We've got Tammy, and then after Tammy, two more names on our first list, Vince and Whitney. Well, this snowplow on the road in New York State is getting ready. Snow accumulating on my hood while I was driving. I'd be like, it's time for a coffee break. I'm just going to sit here until whenever and wait it out, because that's a double whammy. I was driving around Crater Lake when I was in Oregon for the eclipse, and there was snow and ice on the roads. In the shady spots, it lasted into the afternoon. And that could get you, especially when you're not expecting it. Especially when you're not expecting it, because early October, you're not expecting it yet. But yeah, at elevation.